Okay, so far, I've done basically just 2 hours straight of kind of everything I could think of in like sequential order in terms of what I think is most important to learn. But obviously, I don't expect a beginner to just watch a 2 hour video and then be able to do everything that I was talking about, like something like Over the Hills and Far Away by Led Zeppelin. That probably took me like a month or so of playing when I was finally able to get it down. Um, and that's because you really want to work on the fundamentals before you start venturing off to like the more difficult stuff. So all those chords and stuff that I showed you before, you really want to get those down pat before you go on to other things. Um, I don't know, and just a few practice tips. Really, the biggest thing is concentration. It's good to have like, you know, 15 minutes, a half hour a day set aside where your attention is totally going to be um, uninterrupted. And it's better to practice for 15 minutes twice a day than it is to practice for 30 minutes straight. That's not to say don't practice for 30 minutes straight. It's just that if you can break it up into 15-minute segments, um, that's where your attention span is really its strongest. After 15 minutes, it kind of gets a little bit more difficult to follow something like this. Um, and the reason I chose the things to teach you at first, kind of like an old expression, like, you wouldn't tell someone to build a boat so that they could go fishing. You show them the vastness of the ocean, and then they want to build the boat and venture off. So all this is kind of like the fundamental things that you should learn, but feel free to, like, if for whatever reason you really um, like bar chords, which probably not the case, but then it would be a good idea to look up all different types of bar chords. But if I'm trying to do this like crash course style, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on every different bar chord shape, just because time constraints. That being said, um, I'm going to get into seventh chords, which all the chords we've dealt with so far have been major and minor. Without getting into what really makes them major or minor, we do know that major is happy, minor is sad. There's also a different group of chords called seven chords, and basically a it's a chord with like a little bit more flavor. I'll play an A major right now, and then I'll play an A7. So this is an A major and an A7. So you could hear it has like a little bit more of a twang to it. Um, and this is something that really strengthens certain chord progressions. Usually it'll be like the last chord, say like you have like a 4 bar phrase, which I'm going to get into more a little bit later, but having a seventh chord as like the last 4 chords of that, um, you know, how we were doing like with Numb, it's E minor G, E minor C, G, D or something. If you ended with like a D7 instead, it would have a pretty strong finish. And depending on the song is when you're going to want to use it. But the 7 chords are like a really strong tool for like making a chord progression sound a lot better. So an A7, there's 2 ways to play it. I'm going to show you both of them if I have both of them right now. All right, I only have this one. Okay, so what it is, kind of like an A where I said usually you wouldn't want to bar it. Here I would say bar it because you're also adding in the bottom string. So just play a regular A chord with that bar. Okay, but then on the bottom string with with any finger, preferably your middle, but you can use your third or whatever's comfortable. Um, you're adding the third fret of the bottom string, so it sounds like this. Okay, so that's one A7. The other A7 that I use is kind of like an A, but you know how you have your three fingers bunched up for that A? Get rid of your middle finger and your second finger and play that string open instead. So you don't play the top string. The next string down is open. The string below that is the second fret with your first finger. The next string down is open. The next string down is the second fret with your third finger or your second finger. And then the last string, the bottom one, is open. So the only tricky part about this is that you have an open string in between two frets that you're holding down on. So it's one of those ones where it's a little bit tricky to get it open and ringing without your finger like touching the string a little bit or whatever. Kind of like a C chord. But the only reason I like this one a little bit better is that it utilizes the open string, and I think that's kind of the idea behind cowboy chords, is that the sound is a lot fuller and nicer when you include some open strings in the background. But it's a matter of taste. Both are good and work the same way. So let me show a diagram of that, the first A chord that I was talking about. These are all the chords here. Okay, so I'll hold that there for a sec. Yeah, I mean, you use all of these once in a while, to be honest. Except the G, I'll get into that later, sorry. But yeah, those are all those chords. So we did the A7. I'm going to get into the E7 now. So much like your E chord, get into, E chord shape. And then the top string is open. The second string has your second finger on the second fret. The third string is open. The string below that is your first finger on the first fret. And then the rest are open. The ones below that, open, open. So it's O2, open, 1, open, open. And you mix that in with, say like a C. And then whatever else. And it sounds really strong. So after that, I'll give you a D7, a 2. I'm not going to get to the G7. Maybe I should, yeah, I will. I'm not going to show you, well, I'll show you all of them, because they're all pretty straightforward. The D7 is that you don't play the top strings. Maybe you figured this out by now, but it's E, A, D, G, B, E. So the D chord is going to start on an open D string because that's just a D. That's the root note, Any chord, whatever it is, say it's like a G, G minor, G7, whatever, the first note is going to be G. Always. That's like what determines the name of the chord. So then D7. Okay, so top two strings, you don't play them. The third one down is open. Then the next string down, you have your second finger on the second fret. The second to last string, you have your first finger on the first fret. And then the last string, you have your third finger on the second fret. So it's like an inverted D chord almost. So you can see these kind of have like a bluesy sound. especially with like the A, the E, and the D, something like stuff like that. Very bluesy. That's really where you see these most when you're looking for like a bluesy sound. So the G7, top string, your third finger on the third fret on the top string. Next string down, your second finger on the second fret. And then the next three strings are open. And then the last string, the bottom one, is your first finger on the first fret. So when you strum it all together, it sounds like this. I'm going over 10 minutes now. I didn't mean to do that.